Hello, everyone. We are presenting today the topic Early Living in Higher Education in Mexico. This presentation represents the work, the research being conducted at Benemérita Universidad de Puebla by Dr. Rebeca Tapia and Eliphelet Rivera Cuayahuitl. And for University of Quintana, the presenters are Professor Rodolfo Fernández de Lara, Hadad, and Professor Magnolia, Negrete, Cetina. This presentation is for FEL Internacional 2021. The agenda is basically the introduction, the background of the study, the methodology, and some preliminary results with preliminary conclusions. Okay, the introduction basically it's about the fact that this study aims to investigate what are the reasons why students are dropping in higher education, and there are 5 universities participating in a joint major study, which are Benemérita, Universidad Autónoma de Puebla, Universidad Veracruzana, Universidad Juárez del Estado de Durango, Universidad Tecnológica Metropolitana en Yucatán, and Universidad de Guanajuato. Those are the 5 universities that are participating, plus University of Quintana Roo. Well, student dropout represents an international problem in different educational levels all over the world, and particularly in Latin America and in Mexico. Some researchers have been looking at it from a closer perspective, specifically in Colombia and Mexico. And even organizations like the OCDE and UNICEF have been paying a lot of attention over this phenomena. Well, what's the definition for dropping out? According to Fonseca and Garcia, basically this dropping out can have either a positive or a negative connotation. The negative has to do with the termination of the relationship between the student and a training program leading to a degree. The positive connotation would be the student's decision to opt for a better academic preparation or to seek the success of a formative project. There's also Tinto, another researcher, who has brought up some other definitions different to these previous two, which have to do with students who abandon their studies for good, dropping out all of the educational modalities, students who drop out of one educational program to transfer to another, or students who completely drop out to their current degree or program. What seem to be the most representative reasons why students are dropping out? Well, according to Tinto, there are basically 5 major causes, which are psychological, social, environmental, economic, organizational, and interactional. And in the case of Mexico, the Ministry of Education, they've looked at these reasons and they have identified that most of the reasons why students drop out have to do with having low grades in high school, issues having to do with marital status, and the need to share the time dedicated to studies within work activity. Well, the background for this study, it dates back to 2011, when a group of researchers also from Universidad de Quintana Roo and from Universidad Veracruzana conducted a study similar to the one we're doing today with some other professors. And from this work, there was even we were able to write a book called talking about Deserción Escolar desde la perspectiva estudiantil. So basically what we decided to do this time was to run again the study. It's kind of a replication of the study, and but this time with a wider range, including not only 2 institutions, but instead 6 institutions from different, as you've seen previously, from different parts of the country. From that study back in 2011, we identified that the causes were economic, academic, administrative, affective, and emotional. And each one of them had different sub-causes, as you can see in the presentation. Among these, they had to do with if economic, with financial situation, the curricula. If they were academic, they had to do with the curricula, with teaching skills, tutoring, lack of information, failing subjects. For the administrative matters, it has to do with academic programming, process of accessing to the institution, inequalities, some social inequalities reported, and affective and emotional also that had to do with motivation and personal problems. Well, the methodology followed for this project was also similar to that in 2011. Basically, we wanted to identify what were the reasons that led students to drop out, and of course to think in the process of doing this research, collecting data and interviewing and analyzing the data, trying to come up with an action plan on how to tackle this problem. So the methodological design was as follows. We defined the objective as to getting to know what was the real reason why students were dropping out. We designed a mixed methods study, which included a qualitative approach and a quantitative approach to gather data. And for the collection of this data, we relied on institutional documents, official documents like databases from the institutions, surveys given to those students who had dropped out, and interviews, semi-structured interviews, which obviously were recorded and conducted by the researchers with the participants. The analysis, the quantitative analysis included descriptive statistics and inferential statistics, which include frequencies, standard deviation, correlations, mean, modes, dispersion, which you will see more in detail in the section of analysis. And obviously for this, we use different statistical software like R, SPSS, MaxQDA, and also, well, some basic Excel. For the qualitative analysis, we relied on grounded theory, which consisted of coding, grouping, classifying, and we use the software we used was also MaxQDA, Excel, and Mind Manager. So the procedures basically were first, as the first step, requesting the institutional statistical databases, and from there we went on filtering the major universe of participants, and from there sending electronic surveys. There was an average total cases of 7,000. Okay, all this information was gathered via email. As you know, it's been a year and a half since the whole world experiencing this pandemic, which was limited, has pushed us to change the approach in doing things. And for example, the interviews all have been virtual because obviously we cannot reach in person anyone. But it has worked. We've been able to gather enough data to conduct the analysis. And well, we find out through these processes, through this methodology, we have been able to gather some data, and these are some of the preliminary results. I will now leave you with my partner, Rodolfo, Professor Rodolfo Hadad, who will go more in detail about the findings and the preliminary results. Yes, Rodolfo.
Yes, thank you, Magnolia. Hi all, I'm gonna present to you some of the quantitative analysis we have so far. Some of it, so I think it's the most important for now. Talking about the geographics, for example, we have that most of our students are from Quintana Roo, Yucatan, Querétaro. Distrito Federal, which is actually Mexico City now, and Veracruz, right? And we also have, next please, Magnolia, we have foreign students most of which are from Belize, okay, and then just a few from Guatemala. These are our dropout students from foreign countries. Next, please. Also, we made a time series in order to capture the frequencies of people dropping out during all these years of since 2011 up to 2020. We have 2 peaks along all this time, and these different bars are also representing the different divisions in which the programs are split across these across the different campuses of school. And well, we see that except for 2 years, we have these 2 pikes that might as well be because of this deprivation of the students who are probably enrolled there for longer than they're supposed to be in order to finish their career. Next, please. We have a dropouts by sex. We see that men are slightly, the number of men dropping out is slightly higher than women, but it's about the same proportion. And we also have the dropouts age distribution. In this graph, we can see that most of the dropouts are between the ages of 19 and 24 years old, 20 and 24 years old. And we see that 50% of people dropping out is between 21 years old and 28 years old. So this is about the distribution in ages. Next, please. And well, this is a graph that tells us how many terms is one student or one dropout enrolled until he drops out. And we see that we also have the mode of these numbers is between 3 and 6 terms. That is within the second year of being enrolled for the first time to school, up to a peak right here around 33 terms. Which is about 10 years, because I think this is when, according to the previous rules, this is when the students had as a limit to have finished their professional studies, so they have to drop out after all this time. And notice that about 50% of dropouts are enrolled between 5 and 17 periods, approximately, or 19 periods. Next, please. And this is the average when they drop out. We have also a mode around 7 and 8 in a scale grade between 0 and 10, and also have an important peak at the beginning of this graph to the left-hand side, saying that we have an important number of students dropping out at the beginning, or technically with a 0 of grade. Although 50% of the students drop out with an average between 4.8 and 7.5. Next, please. In this graph, what we try to represent is it's a correlation between the average of the student versus the number of periods they study. So we can usually we would expect that the most periods they study, the higher the average. Although this graph also will help us identify the different, these colors identify different clusters of people according to the causes of desertion. So we see that the ones that are pretty much orange or brown are related to academic causes, while people that is in this region right here with a number of periods studied and a higher average are related to economical causes, right? And also, well, we have a split group right here, which is related to academic, which is, I think it's quite obvious because the number of periods they were there were very few, less than 5, most of them, looking at this pink group right here. And their average vary because that might as well be a cause of desertion, to be left, to leave the school for other reasons than low academic performance, right? Although these are clearly low academic performance, the ones with low average. And well, that's it. I will give the word. I will concede the word to Ms. Rebeca. Oh, and also we have, oh, sorry, one more. We have one more graph right here, and it's the causes of desertion. we can say that this one of the causes of most frequent of desertion is to have a cumulative failing number of subjects above 10. I think it's according to the policies of the school, and some of them mention only generically problems and also changes of career. One of the probably positive causes of desertion that were mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. And of course, there is another called an incorrect enrolling, which I think it belongs to the academic, to the administrative area. Right. So that's about some of the preliminary results we have in the quantitative analysis. Thank you.
Well, for the preliminary conclusions in the case of the Universidad de Quintana Roo, well, early leaving is a problem affecting everyone. So we identified that the three most predominant causes of dropping out is to fail 10 or more courses, as Professor Rodolfo mentioned earlier, not completing their registration process, and personal problems. So the implications, well, it's that we might have to revise how programs are being designed in order to decrease that number of those numbers in failings, and also to revise probably the tutoring programs at the university to guide students in a better way so they don't end up failing, and also to revise the processes within the university to see how they can be more flexible when it comes to the requirements the university asks. And now we'll give the floor to Professor Rebeca Tapia from Benemérita Universidad Autónoma de Puebla. Professor Tapia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy and thankful for being invited to be part of this national research. And we also, as the whole team, are aiming to identify the causes of early leaving from the student's perspective at the BUAP between 2011 and 2020, with the purpose of designing an action plan to tackle this problem. Next. Okay, and we have these specific objectives: to examine dropout rates at educational program level and to identify the main causes that originate the dropouts. Also, we are aiming to elaborate a plan of action to prevent and reduce early leaving at BUAP. Next. We have a similar design to UQRoo, and we are, the main difference in our design is that at this preliminary stage, we're working with tutors databases and semi-structured interviews, and hopefully later on we'll work with more in-depth quantitative and qualitative analysis. We're planning to use grounded theory and generate this coding and organization of categories in order to make this theory of the causes and the reasons, the factors that affect Next. In this preliminary stage, we're working with tutors databases from some generations, and we are trying to analyze the total cases of dropouts by program, dual enrollment, and periods of status change. Next. The preliminary results that we have obtained are shown in this slide. As you can see, we are working with a single program. This is the major in English language teaching from the Facultad de Lenguas of the Benemérita Universidad Autónoma de Puebla. And we have generation 2014, 15, 16, 17, and 18 in this slide. And for generation 2014, the dropout rate that we have now is 32.56. For generation 2015, 35.63%. For generation or cohort 2016, 28.84%. For cohort 2017, we have 18%. And then in generation or cohort 2018, we had only 5%. That this database was gathered by tutors, and we are updating these databases. So the dropout rate, if you notice, it's growing as time passes, and the most important amount of leaving occurs at the beginning. That is the right at the beginning of their studies. Most students have a dropout, so this is early leaving. Thank you very much. Next. Okay, some preliminary conclusions. Similar to UQRoo, we have found that early leaving is a problem affecting different countries and educational levels. And early leaving is the most important type of dropout. And it affects all cohorts studied. Next. Implications for BUAP, for the BUAP case. It is important to design programs that will help prevent students from failing courses, individualized mentoring. This is already, I have good news, this is already happening at BUAP. There is a program called Lobo Mentores, and it involves peer mentoring. So students from higher, semesters are helping, that is, senior students are helping junior students with this Lobo Mentores program. Regarding the academic and personal, it is necessary to revise the effectiveness of the institutional tutoring program to respond to students' needs. There is a very, well, at least a solid program of tutors, which are professors. However, there are some issues in the actual development, and this is not an easy task to perform, because students are trying to become independent, and also the program is somehow teaching them to be independent. So this connection with the tutor that represents authority, sometimes at the beginning of their studies they actually work with their tutor, but little by little this disappears. And administrative implications, we consider important to revise the student selection process to ensure students meet requirements before entering the university and the academic program. Next. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's all for our presentation. We appreciate any comments you might have during the live session.